Oh boy.
Here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition, another installment, another spectacular episode of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football
Sure.
Podcast. I'm Fab. I'm joined with my two exceptionally wonderful co-hosts who chew gum better than Malik neighbors, Raj and Nacc. Hope you all survived the first installment of By Mageddon. With 6 weeks on by, I'm sure it was a fun week for everyone, with so many of us fighting for a playoff spot. Like usual, we'll recap the slate of Sunday's Week 12 action, dive into our biggest winners and losers, highlight some key waiver additions to help you get into fantasy football pay dirt. And if you listened to us and benefited from our advice, which is very likely, please help the Bush League Huddle podcast to continue to grow. Please like, follow, share, subscribe, whatever you can do. Check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Catch the pod on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. But before we begin, I have a question to ask you guys. Have you ever wondered where the player projections come from? Well, you don't have to anymore. Introducing League Champs, the easy to use tool that enables users to turn their player takes into rankings and projections. With in depth analytics, injury analysis, and weekly floor and ceiling ranks, you'll never miss a beat this fantasy season. So download League Champ today from App Store or Google Play. Also, check out their podcast available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. All right, guys, let's break down our individual winners and losers of the week. Rod, we're going to kick it off with you. Who's your winner this week?
Big Will hunting. Will Levis, baby.
Big Willie
Will
style.
Levis. Will Levis has
I love
become
that.
fantasy relevant in SuperFlex, 2QB, and even 1QB leagues. So don't tell me I'm out of my gourd. His last 3 games, 19 points, 15.6 points, and 16 points. I think that's in standard. If we look at like Bush League settings, that's probably more. But 5 TDs and 2 INTs. He wasn't perfect against the Texans. He still took 8 sacks. He had a tough pick six. That's Will Levis football. But he's at least avoiding the dumb backhanded interceptions. So baby steps, guys. And I find it no surprise the Titans offense, they're looking like the Bengals offense lately with the deep shot, high efficiency passing game that Brian Callahan brought over from Cincinnati. So in the past 3 games, the Titans are 7th in yards per completion and 2nd in yards per attempt. And Levis has the most completions of 30 plus yards and 40 plus yards. Combined, that's 11 of them he's had. So he's obviously chucking it deep. We've seen a clear resurgence from Calvin Ridley and his 16 and a half average fantasy points over the last 3 games. And Fab, your boy, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine.
Yeah, man.
What a heater. Like he's on a heater. 6 of 7 TDs, six TDs in the last 7 games. And they both had really nice, beautiful deep shots from Will Levis. There was an even bonus touchdown from my boy, who I don't know why they haven't used him at all this year, but Chiga Okonkwo.
You mentioned him at the start of the year. You
You
love
did.
this guy.
Yeah, he was one of the
I
guys
don't
you
get
liked
it.
a
Like
lot.
he looks like Jonnu Smith, like big tight end who's super fast. Anyways, I might be starting Will Levis in a couple of super flex leagues as he gets the Commanders next week, the Jags in week 14, Bengals week 15, Colts in week 16, and the Jags again in the fantasy finals. So I think he could be started in basically all QB formats, in my opinion.
It's hard not to like his production right now. Like you had mentioned in the last 3 games. I'm just going to read it out how we have it in Bush League. So 21.10, 17.6, and 18.12. Those are
Thank you.
solid numbers from a quarterback to start. In 1QB leagues, especially in Superflex or 2QB leagues, right? And then his cakewalk of a matchup for the final 5 weeks is money. Like you hit on most of them there, but it's like the only one that really scares you is Washington next week, and even them, like he can definitely have some really solid points against them. So no, I'm a Will Levis believer, Big Willie style. Yep, let's do it.
Like it's fantasy points. It doesn't have to look great. He gets it done, man. It's
100%.
not going to look great, but at the end of the game, it's going to be 20 points from what we're seeing.
Yeah, so look, I think I agree with 98% of what you said up there. The only thing I don't agree with maybe is must start in 1 QB leagues. I know you mentioned the 15 and 16 point games. Are we really saying that there's no, like, he's in the top 12 right now of quarterbacks?
But I mean, fantasy, real
Like,
life,
this is
fantasy,
I'm saying
real life.
no, fantasy.
Okay, yeah. So I think with the schedule, Knack, I think there's an opportunity where like he gets the Jags twice, man. Like those are hard. Like you have to give me some scenarios where you have a guy like, say, I don't know.
Well, look, if I'm
I need,
saying
I need,
you're
I don't have
naming,
anyone coming out
but
of it.
look, you're naming all these QBs like okay, there's Mahomes, there's Allen, there's Jackson, there's Jordan Love, there's Kyler Murray,
Kyler Murray right there. I think I
there's
might, I would probably
there's
start Levis over Kyler Murray.
I'm not sure. Then there's the
Oof.
Commanders, Jaden Daniels. There's who else we got? Um, there's Joe Burrow is now that's 8. There's who else we got here?
Goff,
I'm trying to go
you can make an argument. You go Goff. You can make an argument.
like I'm for sure
You go.
going golf. I'm going Sam Darnold. I'm going
Mm,
Sam Darnold is 20 points every single week. Who else? Now I'm trying to find out in Jalen Hurts. I forgot to mention him. Oh, we're at 11. We're at 11 QBs right now that I
Well,
would already start before Levis. I
so
so
mean, like even with
Goff,
the matchup.
I don't know if I would do Goff 100%. Stafford, you didn't mention. I don't know if I would do Stafford for sure 100%. Even Darnold, like there's a bit of a resurgence. But hey, I was talking about 12 and 14 team 1 QB leagues anyways. So
Yeah, no, for sure. Just and look, we didn't even mention Justin Herbert. There's Baker Mayfield. There's Tua. I don't know,
okay, 2
man.
QB.
There's
Okay, you're right. You're right. 2 QB
one
leagues.
QB leagues. That's what I'm saying. That's where I won't agree with you.
Yeah,
I just
you're right.
there's way too many options
You
out there to
swung me.
start.
You swung me.
But two QB leagues, you have a high end QB2 there,
Yeah. I think
100%.
you.
yeah,
I would agree. I would agree.
and
I got
in the
carried
last
away.
4 weeks, on an average points per game basis, he's like QB 17.
There you go.
So, but however, that is ahead of Jared Goff, Anthony Richardson,
Okay.
Kirk
Oh,
Cousins.
Anthony Richardson, obviously
Well,
he's
Kirk Cousins,
He's on the board.
Anthony,
He's on
I'm
the
just
board.
saying
Like
there's
and also
you can
ahead
12
of
make it.
there's
Kyler Murray, as
You
well.
can
The
make an
last,
argument
okay,
matchup
but
specific for
I'm just
one
saying,
QB
no,
that you could.
sure.
yes,
That's
I'm
what I'm
just
saying.
saying my rebuttal to that was just more there's 12 QBs, even 14 QBs that I would start over him in one QB leagues.
Yeah.
yeah. But
That's all I'm saying.
if you have Jared Goff on your team right now and you have Will Levis there too, I think now it creates that conversation, which is not,
Possibly, exactly. I would have to
yeah.
see who you have, but most let's say 10, 12 standard team leagues, like there's a better guy you're to start.
And is the better guy your guy Nacc for week 12?
It could very well be. He's definitely on the up and up.
That's how you
Yeah,
segue,
so
ladies and gentlemen. That's how you
very good
segue.
segue actually. I like that. But my winner this week is Caleb Williams and OC Thomas Brown. Since taking over 2 weeks ago as the interim OC, Thomas Brown seemed to have found the recipe to get the best not only out of Caleb Williams but out of that Bears offense. They seem to be gaining some type of identity. I know it's a small sample size, but it's a far cry from what it looked like at the beginning of the season or the first, let's say, 8 games. So the last 2 games under the new OC, you had Caleb going 23 for 31, 231 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, but 74% completion. That was against the Packers. And then this week against the Vikings, he went 32 for 47, 340 yards, 2 TDs for another 68% completion percentage. So if you look at the previous 2 games right before the OC, before Thomas Brown came in, he went 22 for 41, 217, no touchdowns, 0 picks, but only 54% completion with the Cardinals. And in the game before, he went 16 for 30 for 120 yards. Again, 0 TDs, 0 interceptions, but only 53% completion against the Patriots. So granted, the 2 games with the new OC were losses, but they looked respectable losses as opposed to how they were losing before. But it's also hard to change your offense halfway through a season for even it's even for a veteran QB. It's tough. Imagine for a rookie. But I think he's embraced it. He's handled it like a pro. And he wasn't forcing anything. That was what I found. He was seeing the field a lot more. Again, remember we spoke about getting it to slow it down for him. I think that's exactly what they've done. And he took his short intermediate routes, and when he saw it was there, so this gives, in my opinion, a huge boost to DJ Moore. I think Raj alluded to it last week on how it might, and going
Mhm.
forward, because he had a huge game as well. He finished wide receiver 4 on
Mm-hmm.
on the weekend.
Had a great week.
And also Keenan Allen finished as the wide receiver 5. So this is what we all expected him to do at the beginning of the year. And look, I guess better late than never, but this is the production he's having with talent around him. And they're finally showing him or giving him the tools or showing him and made the offense run the way it
Yeah.
should with those weapons that he has.
Yeah, no, I agree with this. I think Thomas Brown really coming in and taking over a lot of the responsibilities has definitely helped Caleb quite a bit, and he faced some tough defenses too. In that small sample size that you did mention, Packers and Vikings are no slouches on defense, and his schedule for the rest of the season isn't ideal, but on the bright side, they might be playing catch up quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, like when you're facing Detroit twice in the next 5 games, with the amount of points that they score on a regular basis. So Caleb's going to have to chuck it quite a bit. And he's not scared to throw it, man. This guy's been throwing it like 30 times, 45 times, 40 times. So
The only
from a
thing he
fantasy
has to clean
perspective,
up,
it's really nice.
the only thing he has to clean up, in my opinion, is those sacks that he takes.
The last one was
The last one was
brutal.
completely brutal and
Unacceptable.
unnecessary.
Yeah.
Look,
But
again, he's a rookie. He's going to learn these things. But if there's anything that he has to clean up right now, everything else is gotten really better, and we've seen it the last 2 weeks. It's just the unnecessary sacks that he takes.
But
I
he
just want to
loves
say
those
the
broken
deep,
plays, man. He
oh my,
loves
the
those
deep
broken
shot to
plays.
Swift
Yeah.
was like
Beautiful.
that throw
Yes.
made no
Beautiful.
sense.
Yes.
Beautiful.
The only last thing I'll say is this coaching staff is done. Like Eberflus is not surviving this. I do hope they keep Thomas Brown somehow in some capacity as like an offensive analyst or QB coach. But typically, what happens when there's a new regime, they clean house. But I think this guy has really he's got it to click for Caleb.
Yeah, which is hugely important.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to stay on the QB bandwagon, guys. My my big winner for Week 12 was Baker Mayfield is still cooking. Finished with the highest completion amongst all QBs this week at 80%. He's actually at 71% for the season, which is nuts. 19 points in Week 12, not crazy. As of this recording right now, 8:01 p.m., he is QB 10 on the week, despite not throwing any TDs. He did rush for one and added 29 yards on the ground. His TD run was mega. He was juking, he was jumping all over guys, celebrating with a nice Tommy Cutlet celly as well.
That was the
just
ugliest
exaggerate.
celebration ever.
It was
the
very
worst impersonation.
But he did it.
He did it completely wrong, and it was aggressive and it was terrible.
He doesn't know what he's doing, and that's fine. We love him for it. He's showing his chops as a true leader on and off the field too. Bucky Irvin broke out for a nice 50-yard run, and Baker was there as the lead block, which is nuts. So now with Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan back at full health, Baker, who's actually QB3 on the year, only behind Lamar and Burrow, is primed for a great fantasy success for the rest of the season. His 5 remaining games include 4 matchups versus a 7th or better rated matchup for quarterbacks. Also doesn't hurt that the Bucs are still very much in the hunt in the NFC South, sitting at 5-6 with only Atlanta at 6-5 ahead of them. So I ask you guys, do you smell what Baker is cooking? Because by season's end, you just might.
But
Could you
McMillan had
have
one
more of an
catch for 11
eggplant in your pants right now, or
yards.
what?
A little bit. Honestly, my tune for Baker has changed tremendously in the last year. It obviously helps he's on my fantasy team. But
I was gonna say, since you drafted him, you mean?
But
you've done like 7 winner segments on Baker this year.
No, only 3. But honestly, he's such a good locker room guy, and like the fans love him. And I don't know, maybe I'm also I just wish we had a quarterback like that too in the Giants offense.
Man, the turn on Baker has been amazing. Like,
yeah, man,
people hated him.
Good for him.
I was one of them.
Yeah,
I could not stand Baker in Cleveland.
I hated
stand
Baker.
him, and he got humbled in Carolina, and he got humbled again in LA with the Rams. And he won over that locker room right after Brady left.
But you know what? The way he's acting now, that's how he acted at OU. So like I'm just trying to understand what changed with a lot of people, because like the brash guy who like he did what he did against the Giants.
What changed?
Like,
he's playing well.
I don't find
so I guess that's it. Like if he plays bad, then yeah, I get it. Like if you play bad and you have that much bravado,
bad and you're an arrogant, guy. Like, of course, people are gonna hate you, right? Like he's actually playing well. Like I'm all about the showboating. Like go out, man, showboat.
100%.
Like
you got to back it up though, and he's backing it up.
Exactly. You got to back it up. If you don't back it up, you're a loser.
Yep. So those are our winners for the week. We're going to move right along to the losers. Roger, we're going to stick with you and another quarterback. My goodness, who's your loser for week 12?
More quarterbacks. Yes. Loser, CJ Stroud. So in 2023, he was averaging 18.4 fantasy points per game. In 2024, he is at 13.8 fantasy points per game. So he's had 3 games with 2 or more interceptions this year, only 1 last year. 5 INTs in his last 3 games. He had only 4 in his first 9, and a 74.7 passer rating since week 7, which is second worst among qualified QBs. And he's only scored 20 fantasy points in 1 game this year. He had it in 5 games last year. So to me, like, I didn't want to believe the regression was possible with Stroud personally, because he looked nearly flawless last year. But it seems like we're just starting to make excuses for him. And first it was the loss of Nico Collins. Welcome back, Fab. I'm sure you're happy about that. Then it was his O-line. Now I'm thinking the turning point was, you guys remember when he big broed Caleb Williams in that game? He's been bad ever since.
Big mistake.
And then today I saw a clip of him putting himself as the top 5 QB behind Mahomes and Lamar, and in front of Burrow and Herbert. So I think
I will start Levis over CJ Stroud.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. We'll get back to the QBs in that division in a bit, but I think he's been humbled considerably this year. He's holding on to the ball too long, bad picks, running out of his own end zone. Dan Orlovsky, you're finally off the hook. He's been so bad.
Did he did?
Yeah, like he basically did. Yeah, like yeah.
It was close, I think, but
I mean, I think Dan's was more pure, but
he was pressured into it. But yeah, like I think
for sure Dan was all over him for that.
He was all over, and he was probably so happy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been so bad. There was a tweet where fans have been calling for Deshaun Watson to come back. So
that's a little too much.
It was also a joke. It was fake, but still
good.
Look, there was some bright spots. Fab, I'm sure you saw the bomb to Nico Collins, which was sick. The TD to Nico Collins, the bomb to Tank Dell. Those were beauty plays as well, but both picks were really bad. And I think what we're seeing is Stroud is not able to navigate pressure as well as he did last year. And those were some of the pre-draft concerns that people had about him compared to Bryce Young, is can he handle pressure and can he really navigate out of it? So, I mean, look, life comes at you fast. Suddenly Bryce Young having a mini resurgence, Will Levis playing the best of any QB in the AFC South. I don't think the Texans are locked to win that division right now, personally. There's still a ton of football left this season. And honestly, the careers of all those QBs in the AFC South, nothing is set in stone. So it's even early just to say, oh, Bryce Young is a bust. We 100% for sure know Stroud is going to be better than Bryce Young. You just don't know. So, Nacc, to your point, you called it, right? Like,
I called it
sophomore slump.
I called it at the beginning of the year that, like, look, there was no tape on this guy, right? Like, it's easier to figure him out, easy to see what bothers him, easy to see how to get him out of rhythm and stuff like that. Especially at the beginning of the year when people were saying, like, could push for top 5 fantasy numbers. I was like, whoa, like, hold the phone here, guys. Like, this is I think we're in a recency bias, right? Like, we see something and we're like, okay, yeah, this is gonna keep going. This is gonna keep going. Like,
yeah,
he was a rookie, and I get it. He'd had a great year, a fantastic year, one of the best ever by a rookie. But I think we just need to always step back a little bit and just think, like we always say, quarterback needs, three solid years before he's like, we know who he is.
He was calling himself a top 5 QB, like, and when I saw that clip, I'm like, "What the hell, man!" Like,
and
dude,
look,
you
man, like, again, it just goes back to our previous discussion where we're saying, like, I don't mind people showboating, but dude, people are not gonna like you if you showboat and you don't show out, and like you're not showing that you're that guy. Like, you're definitely not a top 5 in the league right now, and you're not even looking like a top 20 at the moment.
No, and you really saw how poor he was playing when he had no Nico Collins and no Stephon Diggs, and he just had to rely on Tank Dell and John Mechie. He's not Mechie, excuse me. He's not performing as you would expect him to be honest with you. I know the regression was expected, and I guess defensive coordinators just kind of figured out the tape after year 1. I still have hope. Honestly, I think there's still going to be like a little bit of a resurgence at some point, but at the same time, I do expect that like this might be just who he is to a degree, but at the same time, he's young, man. He's
I
young.
don't think. No, I don't think. I think he's
He's
going to
gonna
be
get better.
very good.
Yeah.
I just think the weaknesses that we saw in the pre-draft process are rearing its head a little bit.
Yeah.
It's year 2. There's no need to
It's year
push the
2.
panic button
No,
just yet. It's
absolutely
just
not.
there was a there was a regression that happened, and
I know a lot of teams would rather have CJ Stroud than their current quarterback right now, even with how bad he's been playing in the last few games.
for sure,
Yeah.
he's young.
Nacc, who's your loser this week?
Yeah, we're gonna stick away from the QB discussion. My loser of the week is DeAndre Hopkins. So after a pretty hot start in his second game with the Chiefs, where he had 8 catches, 86 yards, and 2 touchdowns for a 28.6 fantasy points, he's been mediocre at best. His next outings were 9.6, 5.9, and 14.5 in his last 3. He's only seen 15 targets in that span, where he's caught 10 for 120 and 1 TD.
Mm-hmm.
And per JJ Jackarison, he was 4th in wide receiver routes run on Sunday versus the Panthers in a game that went down to the wire. So to me, that's very, very, very worrisome. He also only played 45% of the snaps, which is the lowest since his first game with Kansas City. So again, something else that worries me. They've been playing a lot more 12 personnel. I've noticed as well. 1 running back, 2 tight ends. Juju's played 55% of the snaps last game. Xavier Worthy 64% of the snaps, and are all being used more in 1 wide receiver sets. Like I was watching the game closely last weekend, and I always noticed like he's never on the field. Even there's a lot of times in 2 wide receiver sets, he's never on the field. They're prioritizing Worthy and Juju Smith-Schuster. And then you also have Noah Gray, who's eating into his production. So between weeks 1 and 10, Gray had 41.6 fantasy points scored, and then week 11 and 12, he had 40.9 combined scored. So he's eating up a lot of that production. He was considered a potential league winner, but after the trade, but it seems Andy Reid has not been able to get him as involved as everyone hoped. And I heard and read something that with his age, Andy Reid may be trying to save his energy for the playoffs, so not trying to play him too much. And his fantasy day was really saved by that late touchdown. It wasn't looking good, and got a touchdown, got it to 14 points, but I think it's going to be really hard to trust down the stretch and into the fantasy playoffs.
Are we ready to say that Kansas City is a bit of a fantasy wasteland for players? Like not named Mahomes, maybe? And even then, like Mahomes only recently, the last 2 games, has he actually turned it on and actually started putting up some serious points. But
it's one of those teams where it's becoming similar to Buffalo, where it's kind of spreading out in different areas. One game it's Kelsey, one game it's Gray, one game it was Hopkins. Juju got involved. There was a couple games where Hunt was the one who scored 2 rushing touchdowns. So yeah, it's hard to trust these guys week in and week out, thinking that everyone thought like a couple weeks ago, everyone's like, "Ah, wow, Hopkins wide receiver 2 the rest of the way," and I was definitely one of those guys who agreed with that. And it's just the production and the time he's seeing on the field is just not translating, and he's just not getting on the field enough to justify putting him in that wide receiver 2 slot.
So rest of the season, where do you see him as a wide receiver 3? Or is he even startable until further notice?
He's like wide receiver 3 flex play to me right now. I just don't say, look, again, with Juju came back and he's playing ahead of Juju Smith-Schuster, and even Worthy is getting 20% more of the snap share. I don't know, man. I think maybe there could be some truth to Andy Reid kind of trying to keep him fresh for a playoff run and not,
And
tire him out. I
typically,
don't know.
Andy Reid doesn't mince words in his press conferences. He's been pretty honest when it comes to saying how his players are going to be used and what the expectations are and all that. So that he's just not blowing smoke out of his bum. You know what I mean? Like I think that those are legitimate comments over there.
Mahomes also likes the middle of the field a lot, right?
Yeah, which is why he likes his tight ends.
Yes.
Not named
Even
Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce, like 3 games in a row of 20 plus fantasy points. The last 2 games, he's been okay. Not even.
Yeah, Noah Gray.
I
The
think
last
they
2
just
games
take.
has scooped
I think
everything
Mahomes
up.
Mahomes is so used to just taking what the defense gives. So if the defense is going to
Yeah.
take away Kelsey, the defense is going to take away Hopkins. He'll go to Gray. He'll go to P Ryan. He's not forcing it anymore. He doesn't need to.
No, he's not.
Yeah, which in fantasy land or in fantasy terms, that spells no bueno
Avoid.
for
Avoid.
Yep.
yeah.
All right. Well, my loser of the week is a collection of individuals who make up a horrible franchise at the moment. It's the Giants organization right now. Big surprise.
I hope this is the last time we talk about the Giants.
I guarantee you I will not be speaking about the Giants for the rest of the podcast going forward and definitely forever until 2025. And you can hold me to that too.
That is a lie.
100%. Notable players, however, have been calling out the team and for playing soft after their 37-7 loss versus the Bucs this week at home. Dexter Lawrence, Malik Neighbors, Brian Burns, Slayton, Jermaine Illuminor, all stating that not everyone is even playing or going at 100%. Notable leaders have publicly called out the decision-making of the team. Neighbors not having a single target until the second half when they're already down 3-0 is ridiculous. The bad play calling, for example, that other trick play, like why? It's first down and goal, and it's a goal to go that resulted in a fumble and a Tracy benching. Neighbors even said that the QB is not the issue, alluding to the play calling being the problem. Abysmal running game. You bench your best player for a fumble that your dumbass play calling caused. Sticking with DeVito, highest sack percentage last year, about 17% of his dropbacks. Sacked another 4 times this last Sunday, while paying Drew Lock $5 million to sit on the bench. If they're tanking for number 1, that's fine. But the product on the field is horrible, and the major concern is that the head coach has lost the locker room is legit. Evidence of the comments from the players and the apparent lack of effort on the field. Giants seem to be more concerned with which New York team is more of a dumpster fire, them or the Giants. Right now they're winning. And cherry on the cake, Barkley going for 255 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 receptions, 47 points, smashing the Rams for 46 fantasy points. Hindsight is 2020, sure, but the decision to keep DJ over Barkley looks even worse now. And to top it all off, Barkley actually had more total yards than the entire Giants offense last week or this past Sunday.
It's
pathetic.
It's very clear the team doesn't want to tank, and I think that's a problem. Like in the NBA,
it's clear that they don't want to tank.
The players don't want to tank.
The players never want to tank.
NFL players don't want to tank because they have a ton of bonuses that are tied with all that stuff, and
yes,
it's very clear that they've tuned Dable and Shane out.
Yeah.
And it is an embarrassment. Like this, like over the past 5 days, it's gotten more and more embarrassing as stuff has come out. To me, it's a no-brainer. Like they have to clean house. They cannot come back with this group again.
They do, and it sucks because, like, okay, fine. If you ask me 5 weeks ago would I fire Dable, I'd say no, because despite the team not playing well, he is getting the most out of he can of Daniel Jones, and he's a good play caller, and he also won Coach of the Year and all that stuff. Fine, but now you can't justify keeping them around anymore, and you kind of want to have the new regime come in and pick their own quarterback, or get that bridge quarterback for 2025, and assuming that they don't find someone that they like, or that maybe they don't get a high enough draft pick. You need a fresh start again. Ever since Coughlin got fired, man, like this team has just been an absolute mess.
So I was with some Eagle fans on Saturday, and like I said it to them, and FAAB, I told you, and Nacc, I'm sure I told it in Bush League as well. Beating the Vikings was the worst thing to happen to this franchise in the past 10 years.
Oh, that playoff game.
That playoff game. It gave them the false sense that they were a good team. It led to them paying Daniel Jones. It led to them thinking that they can ride with this team. And they became a treadmill team. And now that they're not just a treadmill team anymore, they're a horrendous team. They're back to a level 1 rebuild. And fool's gold. It was really fool's gold.
If Mara does not fire Dable and Shane, this is a disaster. Like complete disaster, especially with the coaches that are currently out there right now that you could go get. Like you gotta get rid of this guy. I think the best thing to do is you throw the how did I say it? You back up the brink truck to Who's in
Belichick.
Detroit?
Nah, he's not going there. He's not going
Detroit.
to the Giants, man.
Who's Detroit's
Ben
OC?
Johnson.
Ben
Johnson. That's
He's
it.
not going to. He's not going to New York.
No.
There's no way.
No, but
Imagine
there's
making a name for himself though, drafting the new QB.
yeah.
He has a running back. He's got a good defense. He's just got to settle that offense. He's got to get an offense, and man, you throw money at him, like he's gonna go for money too, right? Like head coaching job. I understand they paid to keep him, but there's no way they're gonna keep him again. There's no way they keep him
You know what?
again one more
From your
year.
lips to God's ears, Nacc.
I think he's waiting for the Detroit job to open up because I have a sneaky feeling Dan Campbell's going to coach the Cowboys at some point because he's a Texas native. I think he went to Texas A&M.
You think he's just gonna leave?
I don't know.
Jerry Jones gives out 5-year contracts, man.
I
Like,
feel
where's he
like
going if he wins a Super Bowl?
I
this
feel
guy?
like Ben
Yeah.
Johnson is like he's not leaving there anytime soon. It seems like he's going to be the highest paid coordinator. I don't know what it is. I just have a sneaky feeling that like Campbell, Texas native, man. That's all we're gonna say.
I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be Ben Johnson. I mean, I hope, I wish. I don't think it's going to be him. I wouldn't be surprised if it's some of the guys on that staff, though, like maybe like the assistant offensive coordinator, or some guys that maybe
Aaron Glenn.
learned under that coaching tree. Ideally, somebody of some level of notoriety, but we'll see. We'll see.
That's an interesting take, Roger. I've never heard that like side of it.
It's just because there's it seems like he's there for the long excuse me, he's there for the long haul and they're paying him so much. I don't think they announced coordinator positions, but there's been rumors that he makes the most out of any coordinator.
Yeah, he does. They paid him. They paid him.
He's like making
a
head coach
boatload of money to keep him there. They did it on purpose to keep him there because or else he was going to take a coaching job. But they paid him enough money for him to stay.
I don't see the incentive for him to leave anytime soon.
Neither do I.
Interesting.
And those are our winners and losers of the week, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to continue with the episode. We're going to talk about some key injuries that happened on week 12. We're just going to run through them real quick. So we have David Montgomery, who injured his shoulder. He's expected to play this Thursday, but keep an eye out for that. Romeo Dobbs, concussion. Doubtful for this Thursday. Josh Downs, a shoulder injury, is projected for a week 15 return, so you might not have him this week or next. Gardner Minshew, broken collarbone, out for the season. Gotta hate that. Wish him the best, speedy recovery. Brian Robinson Jr., ankle injury. And Austin Eckler, concussion. So this is interesting, actually, because this is going to lead us into our FAAB page. But Brian Robinson Jr., he was expected to come back into the game. Ultimately, they held him off. He didn't play the rest of the game. Austin Eckler with his concussion could be out until week 15, depending on how it goes about the concussion protocol process. But it does make for a very interesting running back pickup for the waiver wire, which we're going to get to in a quick second. But before we do, I think it's very important to notice that week 13, which is next week coming up, there aren't any buys. Week 14, however, it's Buy-Mageddon Part 2, which, by the way, the people who made the NFL schedule, like, they don't care about your fantasy team, eh? Like, to have 6 teams on bye again, week 14, where chances are week 14 is probably the most important week in your league because you're going to need that to make the fantasy playoffs. You have the Ravens on bye, you have the Broncos on bye, you have the Texans on bye, the Colts, the Patriots, the Commanders. Like, what? Like, maybe the top 20 fantasy players are on bye in week 14? It's ridiculous. So I just hope I'm facing, in week 14, I hope I'm facing someone that's Derrick Henry.
Could be.
So week 14, Baker Mayfield will be your winner again.
Listen, if he is, the guys he is, you know. I mean,
I'm gonna delete his script right before we air.
I'm not the host week 14. You're the host, Roger. No, Nacc is the host in week 14, I believe. I'm taking week 15. First week of the playoffs. That's where I'm taking. We're gonna jump into some waiver wire and FAAB pickups as well. If you have any FAAB left over. So we've highlighted some guys that are under 50% threshold, and we have a little more QBs than we normally would, just because we also highlight the ones that are for 2 QBs in SuperFlex leagues. So with Minshew out for the year, keep an eye out for AOC, Aiden O'Connell, not the politician, or Desmond Ridder. I believe Pierce said that they're going to go with Ridder to begin with, but just keep an eye out on that to see which quarterback is confirmed.
Just came back to practice today for the first
AOC
time.
scheduled back.
Yeah.
I think it's
Okay.
CC. Yeah.
We put Drew Lock in there just because Tommy DeVito ain't it. Well, who knows what kind of stuff will happen this week with the Giants, but
They named him. They named DeVito the starter.
yeah, I know they did, but who knows if Brian Dable is going to be
Yeah.
their coach next week?
Still worth an ad if you have space.
For sure.
Just
Like,
keep an eye out. Keep an eye out.
You know what though? Like, is he worth an ad? Like, I'm staying away from everything Giants, not named Neighbors or Tracy right now. Like,
If you need a
really?
quarterback in the 2 QB league or SuperFlex league, if all of you guys got injured, we're doing the service to the people.
Tommy DeVito in fantasy.
Yeah, so you need a quarterback. If you start Tommy DeVito in fantasy, my God.
Isn't this the week where you need to start someone else? Nacc? Oh no, it passed
No, it
already.
was last week. It was
last week. That's
it was last week.
Yeah, last week you started Drew Lock. Not Drew Lock. Sorry, you started Gardner Minshew. I mean,
and you know what? He ended up having more points than Anthony Richardson, so I didn't feel as bad dropping him.
He actually had a pretty decent game. It's really too bad he got injured.
For sure, Nacc has an Anthony Richardson voodoo doll. Just like
100%.
I can't see this guy doing
He
well.
came right back down to earth in
man.
game 2. He did exactly what he did to start the season: 30 points, and then
he had some key drops.
Loves it.
He had some key drops, but I'm not gonna go there.
Well, you got Josh Downs.
My aunt had, balls should be my uncle. Yeah, I know.
Will Levis at 12%. So just as Roger alluded to earlier in the episode, he's been cooking right now. He might even be a QB1 before the end. No, I'm kidding. He's a viable play in 2 QB or SuperFlex. So keep an eye out for Will Levis as well as Bryce Young. 17.5 fantasy points versus a KCD. Pretty decent playoff matchup too versus Dallas, Arizona, and Tampa. Nothing really scares you. And I guess we're going to mention. No, we're not going to mention Daniel Jones. No, we're going to move on.
I thought he would be signed by now, but I guess he's waiting to see what happens.
Everyone wants Daniel Jones. Everyone wants Daniel Jones now. This might be also a good time just to kind of own your key backups, like your QB1, QB2 backups, right? Like if there's an injury, then you just slot in the backup at that point.
I will agree, depending on who the backup is. We just saw this week. Like, what did what's his name? Allen? Who's the backup there for Brock Purdy? Like, it didn't exactly have a stellar game this week. So I think I don't know if I would go for backups. I think.
What if you only have 2 QBs and there's no one left?
Yes. If I am starving for a quarterback, then yes, 100%. But well, listen, I picked up Tyrod.
Guido last. Remember Guido last year?
Tyrod Taylor.
I think Guido last year had like both his back. I think he had all.
He had Sam Darnold on his roster all year for Purdy.
Yeah, it's not a bad strategy.
No, it's definitely not a bad strategy. But
not.
The only problem is like we just alluded to is by Mageddon again in week 14. So you might not have like the opportunity to have.
Dude, there's going to be so many guys that are going to be dropped on week 14 that are on bye or like just backups and because people need to pick up players so they can start because it's going to be the last week before fantasy playoffs and guys are going to have to get every single point they could possibly get. It's going to be legit, man.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. And that's where you who's sitting in a higher power position look to pillage or pick people that have been dropped, for...
That's bad. 100%. That's bad fantasy mismanagement. If you have to, I'm looking at my team in Bush League. Like I have Drake May on bye, Joe Mixon, and Anthony Richardson. Like I don't need to drop anyone. Like,
I don't know if my week 14, week 14 doesn't look too bleak. I think I have Josh Downs. That's it on bye.
My entire bench was on bye this week. Like there was rumors that Neighbors might not play, and there's something about like Aaron Jones still being injured, and thank God they all played. Because my entire bench was on bye. And I could have dropped the guy here and there, sure, but and it's going to be the same thing for a lot of people in week 14. You're going to see the entire benches are going to be on bye, and people are going to have to drop players. Drop players they normally wouldn't, especially if you're in a short, like
drop
Roger,
your kicker.
The league that, most likely.
Drop your kicker.
Your kicker you left on IR for 2 weeks, missed a couple kicks, missed an extra point.
I came this close to putting him as a loser. I really did. I was like, you missed these 2 point after attempts.
If you would have put him as a loser, you would have to put yourself as a loser for keeping him on IR.
I know. And he's on bye in week 14. I might have to drop him now. After all that. He's such a good kicker. Austin Siebert for Washington. Dude, great kicker on the great offense. Kickers are people too. We're going to move on to the running backs. Quite a few of them with a huge amount of availability as well. So we're going to run through them real quick. Jeremy Nichols, 1% owned. So like we mentioned before, Eckler and Brian... McNichols. Is that what I said? I said McNichols.
You said Nichols.
Jeremy McNichols. 1% owned.
Who? Like who? Plus, I wrote McNichols, but
I hate you guys.
you
I
could
hate you
have
guys so much.
written McNichols or Nichols, and no one gonna have given a
Y'all
flying
gotta
hoot.
clean your ears because I said McNichols. When everyone else listens to
You're
the
so bad
podcast for
with
the
names,
first time and I
Noah.
said Jeremy McNichols, I want everyone to hit us in the comments, please. Thank
Oh
you.
my god.
Austin
So funny.
Eckler and Brian Robinson Jr. Austin Eckler will most likely be out. Brian Robinson Jr. Chances he might be out too. I don't know if he's going to make it in time for the Thursday game, so he's going to be a big pickup. Ameer Abdullah, both White and Madison. Abdullah.
It depends. No, I'm a
It
Nacc.
depends.
It depends. It
Oh,
really
yeah?
depends. Yeah, it depends.
Yes, it does.
Oh, okay.
We have a wide amount of listeners, Nacc. I got to make sure that everyone feels included. So
Abdullah
Ameer
Abdullah.
Abdullah. Both White and Madison are hurt. Nacc, I think you. Sorry, Roger. I think you want to mention something on Ameer.
Yeah, he played 90% of the Vegas offensive snaps in week 2. It's the first time a Vegas back was over 70% this season, and he had 17.5 PPR points, which tied for the most from a Raider back this season.
Well, I mean, all their backs were hurt, right? They didn't have a full. So I
Hurt
think they only had a
and bad.
they only had a, what was it? I think it was a 4th round or 5th round rookie on the roster.
Definitely something to keep an eye on for because again, week 14 buys. You have a Jalen Wright, 94% available. Keep an eye on for him. Braylon Allen, he should be 100% owned. He's 76% available. Cam Makers as well. Trey Benson, Roscoe Johnson has been nice. Roshan. I gotta get my eyes checked. Why did I call him Roscoe? Where did that happen?
Okay,
Roshan Johnson.
Roscoe.
So Roshan's getting a good amount of the snap share. He looks like he's the goal line back too.
He is. Yeah.
I was gonna say he's all over the goal line.
So that's one that's definitely worth owning.
Yeah, and Zach Charbonnet. You have a little something over here. Kenneth Walker has dipped below 70%
That's pretty
carry
crazy
share
how he's 60% available.
Week 1.
He's only 40% owned, Charbonnet.
Zach Charbonnet is receiving a lot of goal line carries as well. So just keep an eye out for him as well. We're going to move on to, I guess out of those guys, Nacc, you're looking to pick. I know you already have Trey Benson on your team, so I'm not going to ask that question. But who would be one of the guys you're targeting the most if you have a spare bench spot?
Look, I like Roshan Johnson just because of the touchdown. Like he's going to get a touchdown almost every week if they're down by the goal line. Swift is not a goal line back. So if you're looking for someone, you need someone to play in your flex. Like you're almost guaranteed that 6 to 7 points with Roshan Johnson just based on that touchdown. And if Swift does go down, he does become the main back. But that's definitely like my that would be my priority for sure. And then maybe a close second would be like Charbonnet, just knowing Kenneth Walker's injury history, and Charbonnet has shown in a lead back role that he can produce. So I think those would for sure be my top 2 guys to like must own right now.
Agreed.
Yep, 100%. We're going to move on to wide receivers. So we have Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, 12% owned. Again, he's been been TD and listen, even a broke clock is right. Whatever. He's had TD in 6 of the last 7 games. MVS 25% owned. He's been on a bye week, but you might want to pick him up because him too has just been hitting pay dirt quite a bit lately. Panthers wide receivers: Adam Thielen, Xavier Legette, David Moore. David Moore is nice. So these guys have been getting some solid production with the resurgence of Bryce Young.
Why was Coker a healthy scratch?
I thought he was just injured, but I didn't know
he was scratched.
Interesting.
And DeVaugh Vele, is that how you pronounce his name?
Vele. Yeah, DeVaugh Vele.
Good job, Fab.
2 for 2.
2 for 2.
Comeback is on its way. He's been popping up quite a bit in the last few weeks. Actually, DeVaugh Vele. I think he might have turned into Bo Nix's new favorite target. So it's definitely somebody you want to take a look out for.
No, it's still Sutton, but But 23% target share gets you to like kind of WR2 territory-ish. But 14 points, 11 points, and 14 fantasy points in the last 3. So
definitely, these guys are definitely to keep an eye on for sure.
I would just maybe prioritize Thielen. I know he only saw a 12% target share, but to me, if Thielen's healthy and Bryce Young's playing the way he's playing, he's the guy I trust the most. Leggett, I think it's still too early on Leggett, and like the David Moore thing, I don't think I would be chasing that right now. Like I'd have to see it at least another week or two.
I feel like every week though I hear David Moore's name catch a touchdown or a crazy pass or something like that for Carolina. But to your point about Thielen, we forget that like Thielen wasn't like wide receiver 5 at one point at the beginning of last year, catching passes from Bryce Young. Like he was just murdering it at the beginning of the season. So
Yeah, it was
there's
just like
definitely
PPR monster last year
Guys,
for sure.
legit, David Morris is the first time I heard of him this year, man. Like, and I'm just looking at his stats, like 19 catches, 202 yards. Like, it's the first time I've ever heard of him this year.
no. I think last week too he had a decent game because I remember seeing his name on the Carolina jersey. I'm like, DJ. I was like, no, David. Okay.
And like I know that we've talked about it. Westbrook-Ikhine and MVS, like they're scoring touchdowns, they're scoring points. Like, are you comfortably starting them every week? Like, are you like picking this guy up and starting him this week, or like if you're on the cusp of the playoffs, on the border of getting in, like are these the players you're trusting, even if there's a chance they go off like this? Like, I feel like these guys are like the typical boomer bust guy. Like, if he doesn't score that long touchdown, who are these guys, right?
I agree
So,
with you. Sorry, go ahead, Roger.
like, I look at Marco's team in Bush League. He has Marvin Harrison Jr., Mike Evans, Cortland Sutton's on bye in week 14. Then he has Devonta Smith, who's injured, and he has no other wide receivers. To me, that's like a perfect team where I might want to take a shot at MVS
Like
or
boomer
Nicholas
bust, because like
Mhm.
it could happen.
he has
Yeah.
nothing else. Like, and you know what? Fantasy wide receivers is pretty barren right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
guess it
even
So,
depends
like,
on the
that's the
situation.
situation I would say,
Yeah,
Nacc, like where I
I
would
agree.
probably start those guys
Yeah.
if you have like really bad wide receiver
Mhm.
depth on your team.
yeah, for sure. No, it's the only reason you can think of. But even you're looking at Westbrook-Ikhine, he's had games of decent amount of targets. The
Yeah.
receptions haven't always been there, but he's had decent amount of targets. And you just kind of figure with his matchup for the rest of this season, faced Jacksonville twice. I don't know. Like again, if I have a spot on my bench for it, and the way that Will Levis is playing right now, it's hard to argue against. At the very least, picking him up and then seeing what you have.
It's a shot play offense now. It's
Yeah,
throw it
Mhm.
deep or run the ball with Tony Pollard, which, like you said, broken clocks. Fab.
yeah. We're gonna move on to tight ends. So we got Cole Kmet, who's 47% old. He had a nice 13.4 fantasy points this week. Will Disley, 25% owned, 18 fantasy points last week. Right now, I believe he has, and I only know this because he's on my fantasy team and I'm facing Nacc. 2.8 fantasy points. He has one catch for 18 yards. Zach Ertz, 48% owned. 15.8 fantasy points this last week. And then Noah Gray. I was going to say Nora Gray, the singer. Noah Gray, 4% owned, fourth in
Restaurant.
routes run. Another game of 2 touchdowns. Nacc, you had spoken about him a little bit earlier. Like out of these 4 guys, like is it Noah Gray that you got to pick up, or is it just a flash in the pan and that's it? He's not going to be there next week.
The offense is too, like we just mentioned before, or I mentioned before. It's just like it changes on a week to week basis. So it's hard to trust. Yeah, he's had 2 straight games of I think 20 points or more, or 40 points in 2 games, but
Yeah,
it's just really hard to trust. I think Will Disley is a good one who has a nice,
a little
decent
safer.
floor. And Zach Ertz, it's just like it's one of those things where like, man, he has like one good game, everyone keeps him on the wire. He has another good game, people pick him up, and then boom, dud. So it's really hard to say. I'm gonna go with, if you want to stream one, I'm just gonna go with the better offenses right now. And Will Disley, I think, fits that mold of better offenses. And if you want to go Nora Gray, you just have to be prepared for a low
You said it. You
floor,
got it.
high.
Yes, you got it. You got
No,
it.
what did I say?
You
Nora?
said
Did I
the
say
You
rest.
said
You
Nora?
no.
said the fantastic restaurant in Montreal, Nora Gray.
Nora Gray. Noah Gray, excuse me. Fab is so happy. Look at him. He can't keep a smile off his face.
This is a professional fantasy football podcast.
I would go, yeah,
100%.
that's it, definitely. But I would definitely go Will Disley first, and then Noah Gray definitely
So,
second for sure.
man, from just a pure player standpoint, it's Cole Kmet for me. I just don't understand his usage. I've never understand his usage since he's been in Chicago. He's such a talented player, but they don't really leverage him. Like he had 13.4 fantasy points, but he's third now in that target distribution. Fourth in that target distribution. So
Yeah,
I'm
and I
looking at
think, like we said, with the new offense over there, it's going to really favor the wide receivers,
yep.
and I think the running back too. So
Zach Ertz, and he's been really nice the last like 5 weeks, even 6 weeks. Want to go back that far? Double-digit fantasy points in 5 of the last 7 games. He only had his worst game was against the Giants. He had 1 catch on 1 target, but apart from that, like he has a decent floor. He's getting a nice chunk of targets. Like something to definitely look into as well. And he's been consistent. Like he might not be a super flashy name, but Zach Ertz,
it's because he gets those games in between where it's like, he plays well against the Chicago, Carolina and Chicago puts up almost 15 points each, then 1.5,
you know,
7.1. And now look, again, we kept him on the wire, string of 2 good weeks. He finds the end zone, 18 and 16 points, and then boom, here comes Tennessee and right back
you,
down to earth
but I'm going to get to you in a second, Raj. You
when
know
you
what I
start
noticed
him.
though? Like he's been playing better against tougher defenses, which probably means that, Daniels is looking for him when he needs his safety blanket.
What are we doing with Sam LaPorta? Like I'm seeing a lot on social media where people are just saying he's flat out unplayable.
He is unplayable.
Well, I think people are onto something.
He was dropped in our league. Nick dropped him.
Yeah, he was picked up.
That's
Marco
nuts.
was
That
picked up.
is nuts.
Marco picked him up and
That is
spent
crazy.
But
That is that.
why is it crazy?
$31.
Man,
He's the 184th ranked fantasy player right now, as we
because
speak.
Nacc, it's a tight end.
28, but he has 28 receptions this year.
I get it, but
28
like
receptions.
it's a tight end, man. Like you're not. He
He's not
has
good
like
right now.
if he has a 5-point game, that's like tight end 20.
Oh, stop it.
Is he even tight end 20 on the year? Well, we're in a 10-team league. You can start 10 a week.
There's no way I'm like
usually
to me. So like I'm someone who's typically I've been willing to hold on to players more than I should. This year I feel like I've done better with that. But to me, LaPorta, if you draft him that high and the talent is still there and the scheme is still there, I just be worried at some point he's going to go on a bit of a heater. And like to me, that position is it's the biggest wasteland position.
He's tight end 16. He's tight end 16.
I couldn't even find him.
That's not worth a drop in my opinion. Like for who? For like Adam Troutman and
you're only starting one, right? Like he has Kate Otten, who is tight end 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's 6, tight end 6 on the year. He dropped him. He picked up Kate Otten to drop LaPorta. I'm pretty
perfectly
sure.
Fine.
100%.
And he has McBride, who's tight end 3.
So I did the same with Jonnu Smith. I dropped Evan Ingram for Jonnu Smith, and I'm flying. But like I don't know, I wouldn't drop LaPorta for like I don't know Cole Kmet or like Zach Ertz. Like
Taysom Hill has more points than him. I understand that one game. Like Mark Andrews, who's been slow, has more points than him. Hunter Henry.
Pat Freiermuth has more points than him.
Pat Freiermuth has more points than
Pat
LaPorta.
Freiermuth is not a pass-catching tight end.
And Pat Freiermuth, he's more offensive tight end. But I mean,
I still wouldn't do it personally.
Like Noah Gray, I said it again. Noah Gray has 2 less fantasy points than him. He's tight end 17.
Dallas Goedert missed 4 games. He has more fantasy points than him.
No, he's 3 less.
Oh, whatever. Same difference.
I don't know, man.
But still, even like there's Dalton Kincaid who's missed time, 3 less points. There's Jake Ferguson who's been injured. He's not that far back. Evan Ingram who missed time. He's not that far back.
I don't know, guys. He's still owned in 94% of leagues. So
of course,
yeah, for sure because of his name. Like his name is making you own this player. Like,
but we talk about offenses that have a lot of mouths to feed. Detroit's a perfect example of that, right? I mean, we have 2 running backs that are top 10 in their position. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, who still gets receptions every now and then. Like it. It's feast or famine with him. It's been a lot more famine lately.
He won't win you a week, but he'll lose you a week, and that's the problem.
For sure.
That's the problem with him. Last year, he was winning you weeks, 20 to 25 points consistently. He was winning you weeks. He will lose you a week more than he'll win you a week, and that's why he's a droppable player in fantasy, especially in 10-team leagues. Come on.
I agree 1,000,000%. Especially in 10-team leagues,
we have to agree to
only
disagree.
start one tight end.
I would bench him for sure. There's no way I would drop him.
But then you
'Cause the-
have 2 tight ends on your
the ta-
roster. You're
the
forcing
talent-
yourself
exactly.
to have 2 tight ends on your
Yeah.
roster, and you're only starting one. So one player on your bench becomes whatever.
I know, man.
Okay, fine. I understand the injury aspect, but most of the time you only have most of the time only has 1 tight end. If you have 2 tight ends, it's because they're good tight ends.
Doesn't Lucas
right?
have 2 tight ends right now?
Lucas,
Well, like
I
I'm
think he
saying,
drafted 4.
Nick has 2, but like you're not dropping Kate Otten or McBride. Like you're almost starting them on.
I was going to say you could start them both every single week.
Exactly, you could start them both pretty much every single week. So,
Roger, you know who has more points?
We should call Nick right now and get his live feedback about.
Roger, you know who has more points than Sam LaPorta?
A kicker.
Kyle Pitts.
Okay.
I rest my case.
You
could have started Kyle Pitts every single game this season, and you would have probably won more matchups.
No. When it's Kyle Pitts,
it's a good debate.
When
once you heard Carl Pitts, it was like,
okay.
Like your face changed. Like the color of your face changed completely.
What?
Your face changed. No, not in that sense. I meant.
Oh my god!
I'm not gonna recover from that one, will I? No.
Wow.
So moving right along.
Recover from Abdullah, so I think it'll be fine.
Defenses. So guys, ladies and gentlemen, in addition to our waiver wire pickup and all that fun stuff that we have, we're actually going to talk about defenses because it is fantasy playoff time. So we've highlighted 3 teams over here that have a very soft playoff schedule. So Arizona, right now, they're 16% owned, 14 points per game in the last 3 games. Their playoffs, they have in the fantasy football playoffs, they're facing New England, Carolina, and the Rams. Arizona's been playing really well lately, and their defense has actually been pretty decent. So it's definitely a stash if you want to stream defenses for the playoffs and also have that second defense too. We highly recommend that if you have the roster space. I know I've done it a bunch of times, even throughout the season if possible too. So Arizona is definitely a good one to pick up. Green Bay, 48% owned. Just put up 15 points versus San Francisco. And in the playoffs, they're facing Seattle, New Orleans, and Minnesota. Definitely some spot starts there. And the Colts, Indianapolis Colts, 11% old. They face Denver, the Titans, and the Giants, especially the Giants in week, I think that'll be week 17.
I think I like the Colts the least.
Same.
I mean, I don't like Denver at all, but I'll be only holding on to them for the potential against the Giants. But Arizona, I think, will be the one that I'll be looking at the most. I even had them on my team for a little bit, but I had to drop them to pick up Aaron Rodgers' backup.
It's Green Bay for me. Like they're playing really well. They're playing well against good offenses, and the Seattle New Orleans mini, like there's some potential for some interceptions there.
Especially when you have Xavier McKinney back there.
I think I'm also taking Green Bay.
Yeah, those are definitely teams that you want to look at as well. So, yeah, defense wins you championships, and that's also applicable in fantasy football as well, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure that you can stream more than one. 100%.
Don't do KC. Like,
100%.
Great real life defense, but fantasy wise, not good.
I agree with that 100%. And I guess that'll do it for the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. As always, please rate, follow, and subscribe on all of our social medias and your podcast platform of choice. Look out for our waiver wire picks on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, as well as our Love-Hate Week 13 episode that's going to come out tomorrow. Once again, cherished listeners, I'm FAAB, that's Raj, he's Nacc. Thanks for spending your time with us, and we are out. Roger, cue the music. Little Nora Gray.
Man, I said it like 6 times, eh?
Dude, that's a record for the amount of names we've butchered.
I know what it feels like to be FAAB.
Seriously.
Not fun.
Except when you're first.
Yeah, you already won.
Nora Gray? Is it that?
I think they...
It's not Nora Gray. Is that her name?
Nora, yeah. No, it's Nora Jones.
Nora Jones, exactly.
Nora Jones.
Yeah.
Nora Jones.
Oh my God, guys.
Wow.
No, you said it. It's the restaurant downtown.
Yeah, it's a restaurant.
Yeah,
exactly.
I said this singer. I'm an idiot. It's fine.
Okay, and we're back to FAAB being the idiot. Perfect.
Have a nice night, everyone.
Right at the right time.
Peace out.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye.